guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro RPG. The end of another week, the end of a poll. We've got a very slim win for Cyberpunk, the 2013 first edition version. Now this was going to be a review of my physical copy, but unfortunately it's in storage and I've had such a chaotic week I've not had a chance to go over and get it. So I'm going to be doing the PDF review instead on the computer desktop. And more about my chaotic week at the end of the video when I'll cover some other stuff about the channel and some other stuff about the poll. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who are wonderful, wonderful people who make all of this possible. And I'd like to thank them from the bottom of my heart, as their efforts are ever so much appreciated. Now if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, and I sure wish you would, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to see one of the other levels of patronage we've got, then there's a Patreon link to in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Cyberpunk 2013. So, this is Cyberpunk, also commonly known as Cyberpunk 2013, because it is the first edition where the second edition of the game was Cyberpunk 2020. And it's far more famous. So we retroactively changed the name of this one to Cyberpunk 2013 to identify the different versions of the game. Now this came out from Talsorian Games in 1988, and it originally came in a box set, like this one for second edition. A nice chunky box, which contained 3 books. So the 3 books were Friday Night Firefight, which is the combat system, the main sort of fighting rules and everything. View from the Edge, the Cyberpunk Handbook. And thirdly, Welcome to Night City, a sourcebook for 2013. So let's have a look through them. First up, the artwork is nice. It's very clear, it's line artwork, there's no colour in here, this is just black and white all through. The design's by Mike Pondsmith, obviously very famous these days, and we've got a nice contents page here. So it goes through the advanced combat system for interlog. Preparation, what materials you need, what character you're going to get, and it's got a short form showing your stats, what body areas are going to take wounds, what phases you're going in, what weapons you've got. So it explains a 3-phase turn, found in Mechton and other RPG adventure games. We go through scale, movement, ambushes, task attempts, all the usual sort of combat stuff. We've got turning around in combat, normal attack rolls, defense rolls, combat experience. We've got special attacks here, attacking inanimate targets, automatic fire, direct auto fire, suppressive fire. We're then on to melee combat. And Friday Night Fist Fight for melee combat. Feints, parries, dodges. It's quite a detailed system. Damage and wounds. Now, the main aim of this system was to be realistic. Combat was supposed to be deadly. You're not supposed to be bullet sponges, the hero who takes a gunshot to the leg and charges back into combat instantly. Fighting is supposed to hurt. So we've got stuff here, structural damage, bludgeoning damage, different types of armour and wounds, healing and recovery. And then we're onto a weapon reference section. Goes through describing all the different sections, and then all the weapons are very much crammed in. We've got their stats as just one line across the top, and then a short description. So the 45 Colt Automatic, it's got its stats, standard US military firearm for over 70 years, known as a serious manstopper with rugged design and excellent adaptability. And we go through different types, so automatic pistols, revolvers, holdouts, submachine guns, rifles, shotguns. We've got different melee weapons, and then we've got armor reference, going through and illustrating what types of armor. And then we've got reference tables at the back here. An errata page, fixing any problems with it, some sample character sheets, and that's us done with Friday Night Firefight. Then we're on to View from the Edge, the Cyberpunk Handbook. Now this is mainly about making characters. So we go through Soul of the New Machine, basically explaining the world. And the very first one, which is something that stuck with me and why I think Cyberpunk is very different to things like Shadowrun. Because the first thing is style over substance. If you look good, you're going to be far better than somebody who is loaded for bear. Having a massive assault rifle and doing lots of damage is important in combat, But if you can intimidate somebody so they don't fight through the style because you're carrying this massive blunderbuss of a pistol, you aim it straight at their face and threaten them so they don't fight at all, that's going to do you better. Attitude is everything. Live on the edge. And we've got the different roles. So we've got rocker boys and rocker girls, solos, netrunners, techies, medias, cops, corporates, fixers, nomads, and then details about fleshing them out. And we've got some tables here, what your dress and personal style is like, who you value most. Things which are still in Cyberpunk up to this day in the latest Cyberpunk Red. Headwear, the mechanics of Cyberpunk characters. So we talk about character points and the forms that you're going to use, the character sheets, the statistics, what skills and tasks are. And we've got life path here. So what you spend your youth doing, what education you get on the street, whether you got military education, etc., going through your life. We've got other character things, so whether you make a friend or an enemy and different tables to roll on. Really, really good stuff to flesh out your character very quickly. Just a few dice roll, and you can make a really detailed character straight from this 1988 edition. The tables of that, inventing new skills, starting funds, and what sort of equipment you get, putting the cyber into the punk. So we've got cyber fashion, cyber technology, boosterware, optics, cyber audio, and it goes through things. So the cyber optics has infrared, micro telescopes, microcambers, time square marquees, targeting scopes, etc. And it details everything. So we've got interface plugs, optionware, chipware, reflex chips, memory chips, artificial limbs, body plating, running out of cash, what you can do to earn more money, join the covert military, take up a life of organised crime, sell out to a corporation. But what the costs of that, the catch. Being a netrunner, so it explains the internet, basically. This is 1988, so nobody had really thought of an interlinked network, and while they never got things right, it's easy to fit what they've got written into what we now know about a World Wide Web, worldwide internet. Got interface programs showing how different cities are linked together across Europe as well. An interface map, some of the large corporation systems, how you would move around the different nodes and what you would find there. Hardware, software, so different programs you can install on your deck, showing a netrunner with his brain burnt out, along with a large list of different programs, explaining what each does, how powerful they are, pages of those. Then we're on to net combat, explaining how all this works, what it looks like when you go into the internet, or into the net, rather. Refereeing the net. Different computer parts when you're going to build up a system. Then we've got trauma team, medtech, and drugs in the cyber age. We can rebuild you. So body design, appearance, increase your interactiveness. And we've got drugs. What's a cyberpunk game without drugs? A lot healthier. Addiction saves. And then we've got different types of drugs. Dorf, black lace. We've got notes and errata section. A spare copy of the interface map. And lots of reference sheets showing the prices of different things. And a standard Cyberpunk character sheet, which still kind of looks the same all these years later. Reference sheet for skills, so if you printed that out, they can have all of their stuff on the front, but they can look things up. They know how much different weapons will cost, what their skills actually do. So, we're on to the third book. These are all fairly brief. Welcome to Night City, a sourcebook for 2013. So, we've got the timeline for the 2000s, basically explaining how we get from 1989 up to 2013. Including space programs, the takeover of corporations, etc. It describes the world. The United States, 25 years of corrupt government and economic destabilization has resulted in a nation divided by class, by race, and by economics. Kind of sounds like they almost got it right. So we've got all the information about the United States, about the world, legal backgrounds, what weapons are like, transportation, including the use of ospreys, which kind of did happen. We now have military aircraft which are tilt wing. They swivel their propellers round to do vertical takeoff and landing and then propel them forward. Different communications things, which still has fax in it, which is odd because in the real world fax was long forgotten or were long forgotten by 2013. Although I know a bunch of companies still use it. Newspapers, television and radio, assorted tips and tricks for doing the cyberpunk genre, talking about Night City itself and a map which is very, very different from the Cyberpunk 2077 game. A picture of Johnny Silverhand, because what would it be without Johnny Silverhand in a Cyberpunk product? A cyberpunk adventure, which is all about Johnny and Alt Cunningham. And we get stats for Johnny there, Thompson and Media, Rogue, who also features heavily in the Cyberpunk 2077 game, different vehicles, Santiago, and we go through the run until we reach Alt, who looks better there than she ever did in the video game, I have to say. A nice full-page picture of her. Corporate life, so describing how corporations work, how they have basically taken over from governments. And then we've got corporate profiles, so it talks about Euro Business Machines Corporation, Zetatech, Microtech, Network News 54, Orbital Air, Infocomp, Biotechia, Petrochem, Militech, WorldSat Communications, Arasaka, which plays such a large point in the video game. Just another Friday night. So we've got things here, Silverhand can still rock, like news articles, telling us what the world's like from being inside it. Talks about Boostergangs. A press release or information release about Arasaka. Gang violence erupts on the Night City streets. One night with the trauma team. These are all in-world stories as if you were reading through a newspaper and these were articles in it to help immerse you in the game. A really good way of doing it. Another character sheet and a list of Netrunner programs. So that is Cyberpunk 2013, first edition, whatever you want to call it. And they got so much right from the beginning. There's loads of brilliant stuff in here, especially the character generation. Now, I'll cover the rules in a future rules breakdown video, because they are different to Cyberpunk 2020, but we can see where the evolution came from. And what else was fantastic in it? There's so much great world building. There is so much great about the info dump, so they give you newspaper stuff. Not only are you learning about the world, but you're learning what people think in that world. A really, really good way of telling you about things and immersing you in the world from the very beginning. So that was Cyberpunk 2013. A great win there with 30% of the vote in this week's poll. But all week it was neck and neck with the second placed at 28% AD&D Player's Handbook from TSR in 1978, the first edition Player's Handbook. So they were tight all week, and this was one of my most successful polls, 184 votes, which is about the highest, or if not the highest itself. Everything else was way back behind. Legend of the Five Rings came in on 17%, Boot Hill 2nd Edition came in on 15%, and the Dark Tech Sourcebook for Dark Conspiracy came in on only 10%. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, I've had an absolutely chaotic week. First of all, at the start of the week I picked up a stomach bug and I felt very, very queasy and couldn't get much done at all. But once I recovered from that, things were looking back on schedule. But unfortunately, last night my son speared his finger with a little shard of glass, almost completely penetrating his finger completely through. So we ended up having to head at midnight to the accident emergency department at the local hospital, where we sat for about 4 hours until he could get treated. It was a Thursday night, so things were pretty busy, and Eventually they helped him out, they removed the glass, they did an x-ray, made sure that everything was out of the wound, and bandaged him up and sent us on our way. But that meant, before I had to get up this morning to do other things, I only had 3 hours of sleep. So I'm a bit bleary-eyed at the moment. So, instead of running another poll, what I'm going to do is take that second place one, because it was only 2% behind, and we'll make the video on that next week, which will give me time to put up another poll in the next few days, and we'll leave that running longer. And so instead of running a week, it'll run a week and a half or slightly over that, and we'll do a retro adventures one, and we'll get onto that, which I will announce at the end of the AD&D video. But anyway, what else have I been up to? Well, I've still been releasing my comedic comedy Dungeons & Dragons classes on DriveThruRPG, so if you check them out, they're linked down to below. And over on RPG Gamer, well, this chaos hasn't helped me out, but I'm still working my way slowly through Knights of the Old Republic and doing D6 stats. So if you love the old Star Wars D6 system, if you check out RPG Gamer and comment and join in as we fill in this period of Star Wars alternate history, because all of that's now become legends. But anyway, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you for watching as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves. I'll catch you later. Bye now.